to make incomes more equal.
Get up! Fight! Stand up! Fight! March on! Fight!
Most Americans say, raise the minimum wage. That's what these protesters want. They say they're grandmothers.
Show us some humanity, better pay.
Poverty wages have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
Unions and fast food workers have been holding lots of raise the minimum wage protests.
I'd like to fight for higher wages. I need to be able to support my family.
I want her to be able to support her family, and a recent poll says 66% of Americans want the minimum wage raised. It's now $7.25 per hour. These protesters say it should be $15 an hour. Some people told me it ought to be more.
For a minimum wage cap, let's go $20. Let's just make it 20 all the way across the board, and then companies can thrive from there.
For the moment, President Obama just wants $10.10. It is hard to live on $7.25 an hour, so who would oppose a small raise? Well, this cruel young woman does. Carrie Sheffeld's a contributor to Forbes.
Take out the knives, John. Thanks.
Rich Benjamin works for the progressive think tank Demos. And I'll start with you, Rich. You want $10?
That's a good start. I think $10 is a great start, and we know this because Washington State has a minimum wage on the order of $10, and their economy is no worse than other states who have a lower minimum wage. So yeah, I think that's great.
Carrie, what's wrong with that?
You hit the nail right on the head. That's Washington State. We need to let states, we need to let companies decide what wage is correct.
And you wrote an article in Forbes that made sense to me. If it's good to raise the wage to 10, why not $100 an hour?
Exactly. No, that's the point. At its very core, hiking the minimum wage is distorting the marketplace. It's basically dictating to government dictating to business what is the correct wage. That's a dangerous and very slippery slope. Why not raise that slope to $100?
Why not?
Well, if some people had their way, especially corporations, why go to 100? Why not go bottomwards to 0? Why not have fast food workers
I'm for that.
volunteer?
No minimum wage.
And have people volunteer. Why not doing that if we not that?
Why not if people want to?
The real point
People
is
do.
that we don't want this bottomless race to the bottom. We don't want an $8 economy jobs. We want a robust middle class, and in order for that to happen, we got to be paying folks on the order of $10 for a minimum wage. So if you wanted to, be some facetious and go on the high end, why not go on the low end?
Why is it facetious? Because if government can artificially just make everybody better off, why are you so cheap at $10?
Because $100 is an extreme, which we know would not necessarily work.
Bob Beckel earlier said there is no study that shows it'll raise unemployment. I would think if I'm forced to pay people more, I might automate, I might hire fewer people.
But essentially, all economists agree there is a cost when you hike the minimum wage. There is a cost. Everyone agrees this. The question is whether that cost is worth the benefit.
We're arguing about whether the minimum wage will cost jobs. We don't think it will at all. But what we do know is if you pay folks more, they need to consume. There's a multiplier effect whereby they'll be purchasers and consumers of products that are necessary. And studies have shown that if you paid people a minimum wage, that would add $15 billion to the economy for people who spend
No, that's not true.
on necessaries.
Because you know what? You're actually going to be hiking the price of food.
You deny that a higher minimum wage will take away some jobs?
They need not take jobs. Especially, how do we know this? We know this from Costco. Costco is paying a fair wage.
Well, you can give
But
an
that's
anecdote.
Costco.
But
I mean, and that's one
there's no-
business.
I don't know.
Economists
You've
at the
got to
Federal
differentiate.
Reserve and California Irvine did a study of the previous studies. They found 85% of the studies show minimum wage causes job loss. It just has to. If I'm a businessman, I got to pay people more. I'm going to hire a few less.
The more salient studies, to my mind, are the studies that say that low-income people who make more money will inject this money back into the commoner. And you're creating bias.
That's true. If they have more
So
money,
they're going to
they'll
have to
inject
buy
it back.
a $15 hamburger. That's what he wants.
If they have a job. Now, you used to make minimum wage, and
I
your
did.
parents were on welfare. So
Exactly.
you feel close to this.
No, I feel this from a very personal level. And you know what got me out of that? It was not increasing the minimum wage. It was getting education. The fact of the matter is, putting the minimum wage at an unsustainable level basically perpetuates the cycle of poverty.
But let me pose the question, since you oppose raising it. Let me hit you with a question from the late Senator Ted Kennedy.
Sure.
Do you have such disdain for hardworking Americans?
Well, did Ted Kennedy ever work on minimum wage?
I don't know.
I don't think so. He certainly came from privilege. But the thing is,
giving us a false
I absolutely
choice.
have
We can walk
no
and chew gum at the same time. We can boost educational opportunity and we can pay a minimum wage.
Artificially hiking the minimum wage causes students to drop their long-term education. It gets them stuck in these very attractive, sweet-looking jobs in the short term. But in the long term, they sacrifice their long-term earning potential.
Rich,
Why would you want to incentivize that?
If conservatives, comically and facetiously say, let's make it $100, why there? You could just make the opposite argument and say, make it $0. Why not there?
But most people don't get minimum wage.
We're on the same page.
No, we're not on the same page.
But only 5% of workers are paid minimum wage. 95% don't need this government rule. And some people, if adults want to volunteer to work for $2 or nothing, why can't we be free to do that?
Why can't we be free to let children work? Why can't we get rid of our clean air laws? Because we need, in some instances, government to help us along as to what is equitable if we want a democracy. So,
I'm with you on clean air, but otherwise, not the others.
Yeah.
Parents want their kids to work. If the kids are not slaves,
Yeah.
shouldn't people have free choice?
But those 5% are an important 5%. I mean, we look out after the 5% that are making a gazillion dollars or are on the top level of the economic ladder. There's no reason why we can't look at the 5% that are earning the minimum wage. That's an important 5%.
I think the defeatist mentality about this is that there is income mobility and you can move out of that 5%. And basically, you're incentivizing people to stay rather than work up that ladder. You're basically shaving off the bottom rungs of that ladder by hiking that standard for everyone.
This is America. America will adjust if we raise the minimum wage. And all these chicken sky are falling arguments, they just never bear out each time you raise the minimum wage.
This is creep. This is government creep.
Government creep. On that note, thank you, Carrie and Rich. Speaking of